Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a terrific Wednesday and your week is going well. My name is Jill Lendino. I am so excited to be welcoming you all to Pelotonia Live this week. This series has been a ton of fun for us to share relevant topics with our community. So we hope you've been logging in and enjoying them and learning a little bit of new things as you're home during this time. So we're super excited for today's session. Certainly something that's really near and dear to our hearts at Pelotonia is volunteerism. And volunteerism in our community is certainly alive and well and more important than ever as we deal with the COVID-19 crisis. So we're really excited to theme today's talk around volunteerism. It's also National Volunteer Week. So hopefully you've been keeping up with the posts on all of our social media pages, highlighting some of the terrific volunteers that we have. So I'm really excited today that we're going to be hosting Matthew Goldstein, who is the founder and CEO of Besa. Besa is a phenomenal organization that's headquartered in Columbus, Ohio, that mobilizes volunteers and kindness in a way that many other communities have never seen before. So I'm excited to bring up Matt and Doug here so we can get started on our conversation and hopefully teach you a little bit more about how to get involved in the community and just what's going on in the world of volunteerism. So hello there.
Hi.
Hi, how are you guys today?
I'm good. I'm great. It's good to see you guys. Happy National Volunteer Week and Earth Day.
Yes.
That's awesome. Matthew, thank you for joining us. We're super excited, as Jill said. You know, I think one of the things, we're very fortunate to know you and to know the great work of Besa, but hopefully today we're going to introduce you and your amazing organization to a lot of other people. So I was hoping maybe you'd just start by giving us like the quick snapshot of what motivated you to start Besa and what you guys do at your core.
Yeah, so we are a Columbus-based nonprofit. We launched in 2012 with this whole idea of how to make it easier for people and businesses to connect with the community in these powerful ways, much like Pelotonia, right? Like, how do you create these powerful experiences around giving back so that people can plug in and be part of making our community brighter, stronger, more vibrant? And so we launched in 2012. And it's been 8 years of doing good, primarily through volunteerism. We work with about 100 plus nonprofit partners, everyone from homeless shelters to food pantries, to community gardens, to diaper banks, you name it, Besa is there. And it's all about how to increase capacity for our partners so that they can do more good. And so over those 8 years, it's been, oh God, I think it's like 50,000 volunteers and over 100,000 hours of service and about $20 million of impact within our community.
That's incredible. I mean, we're in awe of what you do with your team, and it's a small team, and what you've been able to accomplish is remarkable. I know we share a lot of partners in terms of the corporations who you engage, which is awesome. You know, I think one of the challenges right now for people who are watching this, and I feel this, is this desire to want to do as much as you can, and balancing that with this idea that we're supposed to stay at home and limit our mobility. And so I think psychologically that's a real struggle for a lot of us. Like, what can we do? And so what are you seeing in terms of the changing landscape of volunteerism given the COVID-19 situation?
Yeah, well, the beautiful thing, Doug, is that, you know, you guys, everyone on here, there's so many people in our community that during this crisis are raising their hand and saying, I want to help, right? And so there are a lot of ways to help, be it safely at home, virtually, as well as in real life. Just this past weekend, I was at a food distribution site with Franklin County Public Health, and they were distributing food to hungry families. And these are people that are, you know, every age, every background, young families with kids to senior citizens with a handicap placard in their car, all there because they needed food. And the health department depends on volunteers to help distribute that food. They can't do it without the volunteer power. And so there are a lot of opportunities right now to get involved. If you go to our website, givebesa.org, we list them all out. Easy ways to get involved in real life to support places like Franklin County Public Health, like people who are hungry or need shelter. There's also virtual opportunities, right? There's ways to give back from home. So we have a supply drive. There are a lot of nonprofits that are low on supplies, be it the PPE, be it food, be it, a lot of the shelters, the kids aren't in school, they're at the shelter during the day. And so they need activities to keep the kids engaged. And so there are supply drives to get activities to the kids at the shelter. And so there are virtual opportunities that you can do from the comfort of your home to support our community. And there's also things like there are little free, we all know about the little free libraries that are around town.
Yeah.
There's also little free food pantries. And so if you go to our website, you can see a map of where those are and see one in your community and be able to just drop off toilet paper or some food in one without interacting with anyone. But I think the big thing is for those who want to be involved, sorry, my ear pods keep coming out. For those who want to be involved, there are a variety of ways to get involved and to do it safely. And I would encourage everyone, if you want to get out and get involved, going to the Pelotonia website. I know you guys have a great COVID response page. We also have a page, right? Like it's all about educating and how to do it safely. And then here are the opportunities to do it. But then if you're not comfortable going out, right? Like there are people that are young and healthy that can go out, but there's the mental health aspect as well. There are a lot of people I talk to that just don't want to do it because they don't feel safe doing it. And that's totally okay. Stay home, log onto our website, and we have a variety of ways for you to do it from home.
That's awesome. It's interesting, like you described, the need is greater than it's ever been. And so these organizations, whether it be the food banks or wherever, are in such great need in serving so many more people. The little free pantries are awesome. Our daughter and her Girl Scout troop actually built one last year. So we go once a week and visit it and make sure it's stocked. Jill, you've been involved obviously as a leader at Pelotonia, but also a leader within sort of the Besa community as well. And you're also on the front lines of our efforts to distribute food and support to healthcare workers. What are you seeing in sort of your vantage point in terms of volunteerism right now?
Yeah, Besa's made it so easy to volunteer. I think I've been volunteering alongside Matthew's team for about 6 years now. I really appreciate the guidelines that they're directing to on their website, through the CDC, leaving it up to the experts to make sure that everybody understands, like, here's how to determine if you're healthy enough and prepared enough to go out in the community to make these deliveries. So I really appreciate that and have been following that. If I'm leaving my house, making sure that I'm safe. If I'm picking up food from our partnership with the We Are All in This Together group, it's just been really great to see people coming together. And, when you make these drop-offs, people are like flooding out safely, of course, and ready to, take everything out of the car. But Matthew, I'm sure you've, have a lot of experiences in the last couple of weeks of just the best in humanity and how we've all come together. So would love if you could share, a few favorite moments.
I mean, just hearing you say that, like the best in humanity, I get tears in my eyes because it's completely true that this is such a hard time for so many people on so many levels, but the human spirit is alive and well. And we see that all the time, right? Like you see that online when you see the videos from New York City and everyone's cheering at 7 p.m. as the hospital workers change their shift. And you see it in our own community in terms of how we've responded, be it companies like L Brands who have donated, I think it's 100,000 units of soap or sanitizer to frontline nonprofits. That kind of act of kindness goes a long way. It's things as simple as when I'm at the grocery store, I go on Tuesday mornings and I just check in with the cashier. How are you doing? Right. And then I always end with thank you for being here. And I get teary eyed when I say it to her or him, because you never would think that a grocery worker would be on the front line, but in this crisis, they are. And I think it's just important for all of us to, and I think so many of us are stepping back and realizing that and showing appreciation and gratitude. Personally, I would not want to be in that position because you're interacting with so many people, but here are our community members who are stepping up and doing that so that we can gain access to food. And it's just a beautiful thing. Like I shared this past weekend, I was at the food distribution site, and I was packing bags of grapes into boxes for distribution, and these cars are lined up, slowly going by me. The windows are down, and I'm just saying hello back and forth with the different people that are coming through the line. And it's beautiful. It's unfortunate that there's so many cars in line, so many people that need access to food, but it's also beautiful that we're able to connect on that human level and be there for each other. Even just a smile, I think, makes people feel connected to one another. Besa, we do these virtual volunteer opportunities. This past Sunday, we baked breakfast cookies and it was a Zoom call. So we had volunteers on a Zoom call, and they were baking from home breakfast cookies for women staying at the local domestic violence shelter. And it was cool to see 30 volunteers Zooming together as they're baking, talking about what it's like to be home, and then also having someone from the shelter Choices there on the Zoom call to talk about why this work matters, especially right now, and how this is uplifting people in a shelter. Because a shelter is one place that is really hard to be right now. You can't be socially distant in most shelters. They're not built for social distance.
Yeah.
And so just seeing how various community members are coming together to uplift vulnerable populations, and plug in where they can, is the ultimate human experience and what life is all about. That's how we're going to get through this.
Absolutely. And so much of the community that Besa has built actually happens at the volunteer events between volunteers. So I think it's awesome that you're duplicating that experience just online. And I know that there's some other opportunities coming up. I believe there's a mask sewing virtually or creation. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you'll be managing that?
Yeah. So on this Friday, we're launching a new initiative called the Gratitude Challenge, and it's going to be all through next week. And it's all of these opportunities to share gratitude across the community, both virtually and in real life. And so some of the virtual opportunities are making face masks for frontline workers, specifically at the YWCA. The YWCA in Columbus is a really unique YWCA in terms of they are on the front line doing a lot of the work, particularly around homeless populations, to support women and families that are facing crisis around homelessness. And so their employees need face masks, and they don't have enough of them. And so we're going to do a face mask sewing opportunity to create them and then deliver them to the YWCA. And that's one of dozens of projects we're going to be doing next week to support this community.
I think, you touched on this a little bit. I think one of the challenges right now is that you see a lot of stories in the media of people doing, frankly, heroic things. In fact, we learned this week that one of our riders and supporters, who's a physician, is actually headed to New York for 3 weeks to work in the emergency room and take care of patients. And it's incredible. And I think at the same time, we have all these people who are sitting at home saying, what can I do here?
Yeah. You
just gave examples of just small things that make a huge impact. And it's no different than the volunteers who make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at Pelotonia are sort of the heroes of the weekend. So, I think your big week next week is an opportunity for all of us to get involved, whether it's a food pantry or a Zoom bake, event. It doesn't have to be something massive. If we all do something small, I think is what I'm hearing you say, it adds up and makes a real difference.
I used to say, Doug, that I want to make the world brighter. And then one of our friends and colleagues, David Brown at Harmony Project, said, I want to focus on my corner of the world. I want to make that brighter. And I agree with that, right? Like, we all have our corners of the world. And if we can make our corner brighter, it's going to have a ripple effect, hopefully across the world. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? There's a lot of ways to plug in and do good work. And there are a lot of great organizations like Besa, like Pelotonia, like Harmony Project, that hopefully are making it easy for people who are raising their hands to then do something that impacts this community in a positive way during this crisis and after the crisis.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We're talking so much about right now and deploying immediate need, but immediate is going to stretch into a pretty significant amount of time. Hopefully as short as we can make it. But how is your team thinking about the next 3, 6, 9 months in terms of planning volunteerism and just what you'll be offering in the community?
I mean, we've been doing 30, 40, 50 projects a month prior to COVID. Some of that has slowed down because our focus has now been on food and shelter and doing it safely. But once we get through COVID, all of those projects are going to be coming back. And I think even more, because there's going to be much more need in this community, right? There are more people that are hungry, more people seeking shelter, Dress for Success, more people looking to launch their next chapter in terms of a job. And so all of these nonprofits are going to need additional resources, in particular volunteers, as well as donations. And so we are gearing up to make sure that we understand the needs of our partners, and then how can Besa plug in with our volunteer network to help them meet that need. And so we anticipate doing a lot more projects coming out of COVID with all of our partners, right? Even like community gardens, that the growing season is now. You got to plant, you got to get prepared, right? Like that work can't stop. And so we're working with our partners to understand how can volunteers support them to ensure that that food is there when it needs to be harvested.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I totally agree with everything you're saying, and I'm an eternal optimist, and yet at the same time, I think we all have to understand that this is going to last a while. Not necessarily the same stay-at-home restrictions, but what the governor and others are calling this recovery timeline that could be months or longer. And as you've highlighted, the needs in our community will be as great as they've ever been. They are today, and they will be going forward. And I think we all feel a responsibility and know that we have a role to play. So we're grateful for you and your colleagues and sort of want to be partners in any way that we can.
You got to be an optimist to be in this work, right? And so I appreciate the internal optimist in you and everyone that I think that translates into the entire Pelotonia community and the Besa community, that we see bright futures. And even during the darkest time, I think you can dig below the surface a little bit and see the light and love all around us. And like, for me, that's what I focus on, that it's easy to get caught up in the stress and the anxiety. There is going to be stress and anxiety because we're in the middle of a global pandemic and an economic recession. That just goes with the territory. And for me, the question is, what do you do with that? And so my answer is get involved, right? Help other people who are struggling. And in turn, that helps me and that helps the community. And I think that's how we get through this and how we continue once we get through it.
That's so great. I mean, Matt, where you sit, you have such a unique window into so many different nonprofits in our community, so many different community centers and institutions that are doing so much good. And I'm always impressed by your ability to, understand that you're doing a lot, but there can always be more to be done. And that I hate to call it a burden because it's not, but it's a lot as the leader of this organization. So how are you personally balancing, your time and mental state to stay positive during this?
Mental state and self-care are definitely really important. I take a lot of walks, so I'm fortunate that I have a park right around the corner from me. So I take my little dog for walks every day. I have a therapist that I see every 2 weeks, and even during this crisis, Zoom is how I'm seeing her, and that's incredibly helpful. In fact, my next appointment is tomorrow, and I look forward to those appointments because they are check-ins, right? Right about exactly what you're talking about, mental health. I can't do my work if I am not mentally healthy or in a good place, and so that's definitely important. But just taking time to check in with myself, to have conversations with my partner, my husband, and to keep as much as possible work and home life separate, even though it's commingled right now. I work in the dining room, that's where I am right now. And then I try to keep the rest of the house, the home life. So that's how I try to do it. But it's a challenge. I'm fortunate that I have a job, I have a home, like I have these luxuries during this crisis, or I don't know if they're luxuries, but these comforts that I know other people don't have. And that gives me an opportunity to focus more of my energy on how to help other people who are in crisis.
Awesome.
I think it's I think it's so important and well said. And, there's been a lot of things written recently. It's sort of a parallel universe about parents who are educating their kids at home. And there's been a lot of things that are written to say to parents, like, you don't have to have all the answers. You weren't trained as an educator. And people, I think, have such high expectations of themselves. And especially in the Pelotonia community, we have a lot of type A driven, sort of overachievers. But when it comes to volunteerism, it's the same. People want to do more. But we should all be realistic about what we can do and what we're able to do, and small things matter, and we shouldn't put too much pressure on ourselves because that can create a psychological toll.
100%. You can overextend yourself, and I also see this, what we're going through right now, as, what is the silver lining here? At least for me, what is the silver lining in terms of all of a sudden, all these events that I had every night, before COVID, those are all gone. I don't have any plans at night anymore. And so that's an opportunity to have time to reflect on what's important in life. What do I want out of life? What's important in terms of where I want to focus my energy and my love and my heart. And I think so many of us, I'll speak for myself, I'm go, 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 go. And this is forcing me to slow down and reflect in a way that I haven't had in years. And I appreciate that opportunity. And then it's, what do you do with that opportunity, particularly as we come out of this, to continue, for me, to be a good human and continue to evolve in the work that I'm doing.
Fantastic.
Hopefully be a good human.
Definitely you are. We got a question here, and I think it plays well into all the virtual volunteerism opportunities that you've talked about. Somebody said you mentioned providing activities for kids in shelters. What kind of things can we do, or can we help supply?
I love that. So Friday, we're launching a mini supply drive, and it is specifically for kids at the shelter. And so there will be an Amazon wish list going live on Friday, and it has all these different items the shelter needs. Some of it are things that, the families need, like razors and underwear. But then a lot of it are kids' activities. And so you'll be able to go on our Amazon wish list and shop those items and then ship them directly to us, and we'll make sure they get to the shelter. Awesome. That's probably the top way to help kids right now in the shelter.
That's great. And Besa's had a lot of success with these kind of Amazon wish lists and online drives. Can you talk a little bit more about how you've seen that in the past, and maybe how you're envisioning that in the future?
Yeah, so we do a handful of supply drives every year, just as another way to engage the community and make it easy for people to getting connected. We've done pause for our calls, which, God, I can't tell you how many thousands of pounds of food was donated to the local shelter system, pet shelter system. Our biggest one is Adopt a Senior. This started 8 years ago with 26 seniors, low income, fixed income seniors, most of them living on a stipend of $50 a month for food and medicine and haircuts, which isn't a lot of money, right? And we got their wish list, these 26 seniors, and they were asking for things like toilet paper and pet supplies. They wanted to take care of their pet. And I think that first year we raised about $250 in supplies. Last year, it was over 2,000 seniors and $100,000 in supplies. Wow. And in 4 hours, we had this list of seniors, 2,000 seniors, and in 4 hours, all of their wish lists were adopted out. People purchased the items, wrapped them, dropped them off to us, and then we got them to the senior agency so that the seniors would have presents. And the stories we get back, like senior citizens who share that this is the first present they've gotten in decades. Or there's one woman who asked for bed sheets, and she said, these are the first new bed sheets I've had since 1996. Wow. And there's these beautiful stories. This one woman asked for a paint set that she wants to paint her. She lost her husband and she wanted to paint as a way, for therapy and mental health. Yeah. And the Secret Santa got her the paint and the brushes and the canvases. And the next thing we know is the senior delivered us this big painting for her Secret Santa. And it was this abstract piece of art that I didn't totally get, but it wasn't for me. It was for the Secret Santa, and we got it to the Secret Santa. And she said, oh my God, this is the most beautiful thing ever. She worked at the YWCA, and the primary color at the YWCA is orange. And this painting just happened to be primarily orange. And so the Secret Santa hung this painting in her office at the YWCA, and it was just a way for her to be connected to her senior. And we have thousands of stories like that.
And that volunteer, I became friends with because of Besa.
What?
She is a Pelotonia rider, Kate Anderson. To bring that full circle.
I love it.
Just such a convener. But that's a beautiful story. And while these drives are something that everybody kind of does separately, you feel so bonded, right? Whenever you can come and drop it off or just get that story back. So I love that. And I know that we'll definitely be promoting all of the drives, all of the virtual volunteerism opportunities that your team is sharing. Another question that we had come in, and I think this is a good one. Can you talk about how you build relationships with organizations or directly with community members in need so that you can determine where your volunteer work can meet the greatest needs?
Yeah, so we don't work directly with community members in need. We do it all through our nonprofit partners. And so a lot of those relationships start with either the nonprofit reaching out to our team. We have a volunteer department that will meet with the nonprofit, understand their needs, and try to work to understand how can Besa help them do more good work. And so that's usually where it starts, or we see a nonprofit out there doing good work. Right now with COVID, we are at a number of pantries. We're at the health department drop sites around the city. We're at some of the shelters. And then we also saw just through social media that St. Stephen's has a big need. St. Stephen's is in Linden, their community center. They help people from cradle to grave, everything in between, so all ages. And they have a big need for volunteers to help pack food boxes for hungry families in Linden. And so we saw that on Facebook. We reached out to them, and now we're going to be sending volunteers their way as well. So a lot of it is us going out and seeing where is their need and how can we plug in and support. And part of it is nonprofits reaching out to us and saying, hey, we need help. Can you help?
That's fantastic. So anybody who's listening today could reach out and say, our organization could use help, and
yes,
you would consider that approach.
Go to our website. On the About page, there's a, how do I get my nonprofit connected to Besa? And there's a short form that you can fill out, or you can just email us, like email me, Matthew@givebesa.org, and I'm happy to connect you to the appropriate person.
Fantastic. Let's see, another question that came in here. Is there anything that we as a community can do to help your staff right now? I love that question.
Number one, just asking the question. I'm sorry, I get emotional these days. I can't help it. And so just hearing that question just fills my heart. Thank you. Is there anything that you guys can do as a community to help the staff? One is I think just feedback. If there's any insight in terms of if you see need out there and you think Besa can help fill that need, reach out to us. We're always open to conversations. This gratitude challenge, usually a program like the Gratitude Challenge takes months to plan. And it was an idea we came up with last week because we see, we're doing all this good, and then we see that there's so many other people who are raising their hand and want to help. And within a week, my team activated and rallied to put this program together. And it's just a response to a need out there. And so when we see a need, we want to try to help fill that need. And so, as your community is out there, seeing the landscape, wanting to help, if they have any ideas of how Besa can plug in or any organizations they think we should be connected with, we're all ears. This work isn't done in silos. It has to be done through collaboration and partnership.
I love that. Well, that notion of working in collaboration is certainly something that we're going to continue to uphold. I'm so excited to see what your team shares for the Gratitude Challenge. We will be sharing that far and wide on all Pelotonia channels. So certainly our community will lend support there. But I think that is a terrific place to end. Doug, who shared in the comments here, he's having some computer issues. He didn't run out on our conversation. But we're both grateful for you taking the time today and for all the work that you're spearheading in the community. So thank you.
Jill, what you, Doug, your team, the Pelotonia community does for our community and our world is so inspiring and uplifting, and in so many ways fuels my work, right? Like we're all in this together, as you said at the beginning of this. And I am always in awe of how you guys all work together, from, again, staff to your stakeholders, to the riders, to the volunteers, with this one goal to uplift community. And so thank you for everything that you guys do. And thank you for accepting me into your community.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you. Today was so much fun. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Get out on a walk. Enjoy Earth Day.
You too.
And we will see you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.